The state plans to make restaurants post the calories in their foods. Oh, here we go. Big Brother is watching you, reading the menu. Hello all, Gadfly here. Speaking of restaurants and other licensed establishments, on Saturday night, July 26th of 2008, that's last year, the Barnstable Police Department, actually not the whole department, just 2 officers and 2 summer specials, ran a series of sting operations in the village of Hyannis. In one evening, they accomplished 24 stings. Sting, let's define. 2 guys, 20 years old. They're both college students. One guy named Jeffrey Marshall is of particular interest in this story. 2 fellows, both 20 years old, both working during the summer as temporary officers for the Barnstable Police Department. The way the operation, according to Patrolman Stephen Marr, and as we'll see later on, he's an interesting fella. According to Patrolman Stephen Marr, who was working directly under the authority of Lieutenant Joellen Jason, these 2 20-year-old summer police officers were photographed individually in the clothing that they wore on the night of the sting. Each of them was given a breathalyzer test, and each of them blew a score of 0.00. They had not had any alcohol, certainly not any that showed up on the breathalyzer, and we know that under the age of 21, people don't drink anyway. Sometimes. These 2 fellas, who were the guys who actually entered the various premises and attempted to buy liquor, were not allowed to have anything on them. No keys, no wallets, no pocket knives, no cigar cutters, no cell phones, no pens, no identification of any sort, and no money except for being given a $20 bill at the beginning of the sting. When they ran out of money, they went and they got another $20 bill. That's what Patrolman Marr said when he described on December 29th at the second phase of the sting hearing how the sting was arranged, how it was organized. Let me say right up front, and believe me, I hope people believe what I'm saying, I have great respect for police in general, and I have great respect for the Barnstable Police Department as a whole, certainly for its new chief, Paul McDonald, who is just a super guy. He's a cop, as he describes himself, and you'll see him on foot, walking around the village of Hyannis or in his cruiser, roaming around town for probably half of every working day. He says that he cannot run the department from an office. He has to be out in the street experiencing what his officers have to contend with. So, a very good guy. He's a longtime veteran of the police department, recently appointed chief. He didn't organize the sting. My understanding is that the 2 police officers, Lieutenant Joellen Jason and Patrolman Stephen Marr, are the 2 officers who are liaison to the Town of Barnstable Licensing Board. They're the ones who organized the sting. Well, let's see what happened. And this isn't he said, she said. I was there. A friend of mine owns a little place in Hyannis called the Black Spot Cafe. Interesting little place. And it is little. And on the night of Saturday, July 26th, I was standing at the rear of the establishment at the end of the bar. From that position, I could see If I looked around a post, I could see the front door and the band, and the other side of the post, I could see the entire back of the bar. Somewhere around 10 o'clock, a little before 10 o'clock, two guys came in. One fellow stood to my right up against a wall, and the second fellow, this Jeffrey character, Marshall, went to the center of the bar, which is the service area, and he ordered a Bud Light. That was also part of the sting. They were to attempt to purchase a Bud Light, Budweiser light beer. The owner, Micah Power, spotted these two guys right off the bat as there was something wrong. And he later said they were either there to rob him or they were cops. Well, he was right, they were cops. And this young temporary police officer, Jeffrey Marshall, ordered a Bud Light. Micah turned around and went behind himself to the left to the refrigerator where the beer is, pulled out a Budweiser Light, opened the bottle, and put it down with his left hand. I saw this. These work. And he was about to say to this guy, I need to see some ID. He had put the beer out of reach of a normal patron. In fact, it was right behind one of his beer taps. All of a sudden, Officer Marshall reached across the bar. He probably reached 6 or 6.5 feet. I doubt his feet were touching the floor, although he's a very tall, lanky guy with a huge reach. Grabbed the bottle of beer, dragged it across the bar with such force, the bar is made of tiles, that beer sloughed out all over the place, spilled all over the bar, turned around, held it up for his friend, who held up a cell phone like this and took a picture. And everybody in the place saw the flash. Slammed the beer down in the bar, turned and off they went. He also had thrown a $10 bill on the bar. And when he left, the $10 bill was still on the bar. I saw this. Nobody told me about it. Nobody came to find me and said, oh, come in here and look what we found. I saw the whole transaction. In fact, as I said, because I testified at the license suspension hearing in Micah Power's behalf, I said, there was no transaction. It wasn't completed. The bartender, the proprietor, the owner, never handed the beer to the officer, never made it available to him. In fact, he kept it where he thought it was out of reach. Now, interestingly, if you read the Massachusetts Alcohol Beverage Control Commission's guidelines for sting operations, one of the recommendations is that the person who accomplishes a purchase in this way should stay in the establishment, should have his hand on the beer or drink that he or she's been served, and should stay in the establishment for about 5 minutes. That way, there is no doubt that somebody was served. That way, there is no doubt that a person had been served and had never been asked for ID. That didn't happen in this case. According to the testimony of Patrolman Stephen Marr of the Barnstable Police Department, at both hearings, the first one and the continued hearing, the entire sting operation took 3 minutes, maybe a little less. Marr also said in the original hearing, and here's where we get into, some people are going to be mad at me for saying this. I know Stephen Marr is not going to be happy, but he either has a combination of a bad memory and a wicked good imagination, or he lied. Oh, by the way, he was under oath, and he was in uniform, and he was on duty, and he didn't tell the truth. He said, none of this made the newspaper for some reason, I don't know why. He said during the first hearing that he was sitting in his police vehicle outside the black spot and he could see inside. He saw the whole transaction. Well, guess what? That is impossible. I'm not going to go into detail and try to describe that the bar is here and Ocean Street is here and the parking lot is there and the Cape Cod Times building is there and there's this old derelict building over there. Forget about the lay of the land. Trust me. He could not have been sitting in a car and from inside that motor vehicle have seen the inside of the Black Spot Cafe. Period. End of discussion. Didn't happen. Don't care what he said. Well, actually, I do care what he said, but as far as accepting his version of it, no. Then, after he left, Micah said, well, he was a cop. Yeah. I don't know what all that was, grabbing the beer and putting him down. I didn't serve him. Several people heard him say that. Oh, he said the bar had about 30 people in it. We counted, there were 13. 13. Yeah. Great powers of observation, this future G-man. Micah picked up the $10 bill and he said, what the hell do I do with this? And he has a kind of an interesting clientele. The suggestions range from putting it somewhere that would have been very painful to, oh, go chase the guy down the street, or throw it at him, or set it on fire and light a cigarette with it, or put it in your pocket. Well, he put it in his pocket. In fact, his wife washed those pants, found the bill in the pocket, and he forgot at the first hearing that he still had the $10 bill. At the first hearing, Patrolman Marr wasn't at all clear about how much the Black Spot charged for a Bud Light. He didn't know if it was $3 1/4 or $3.50, or so he asked Power, and Power said, well, at the time it was $3 1/4. I've since raised it to $3.50. And Marr's, he's going through some papers that he had. Oh that's right. That's right. $3 1/4. Yeah. Bull. Marr also said that our friend Mr. Marshall, Officer Marshall, paid with exact change. Well, we wouldn't want to have the police leaving a tip, would we? That's not true. That's absolutely not true. And that's what former temporary officer Marshall said under oath. Now, Lieutenant Joellen Jason wasn't there. I'm not even sure if she was on the road with him that night. She's the superior officer for this whole operation, so I don't know what she knew. She didn't testify because her testimony would have been real hearsay. So I'm not accusing her of anything, except maybe she didn't run the sting too well. Marr testified that $3.25 exact change had been paid. Well, he wouldn't know, really, because he wasn't in the place. His testimony's hearsay as well. The guy who paid for the beer, or thought he was paying for the beer, the guy who reached over the bar, lunged over the bar, and grabbed it from where the bartender had put it out of his reach, said under oath that he paid $3.25 in cash. That's a lie. That is absolutely not true. He flipped a $10 bill onto the bar. How do I know? I saw him do it. Gee. And Micah Power saw him do it. And 2 or 3 other people who were unavailable for the hearings, unfortunately, but who are not too happy about this, saw him do it. Now here's where Marr has a problem. He said that the money came out right at the end of the operation. Can't be. It cannot be. There should be $6.75 missing. Nobody stole $6.75. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying somebody cooked the books. After the first hearing, when it was pretty clear that the licensing board weren't going to suspend the license until they heard more, they weren't too sure they liked what they were hearing or even understood what they were hearing. Between that hearing and the hearing in December, between October and December, suddenly the story changed. Marshall, neither of the two summer police officers, was available for the first hearing. Oh, we don't need them, what the hell. They didn't even write the report. They didn't sign the report. Patrolman Stephen Marr wrote the report, and he hadn't even been in the building. He wasn't on premises, and he wasn't outside in a police vehicle from which he could see the inside. That's not true. That's what he said, but that's not true. So Marr now has a problem because he doesn't really know what happened with the money, although maybe he did. Somebody reported up the line to a much higher rank in the Barnstable Police Department, oh yeah, sure, the money came out just right at the end of the night. That's not true. Not true. And what about the photograph? Interestingly, retired Police Lieutenant Martin Hoxie, retired from the Barnstable Police Department, one of the legendary figures of the recent history of the police department, a man I know a little and I like and I respect and I trust. He's the chairman of the licensing board, and towards the end of the first hearing, he said, you know, can we maybe continue this and have these two young officers in here around Christmas when they're home from college? And I feel good if we had them here. Only one of them showed up. The guy with the camera didn't. The interesting thing about the camera, well, there's more than one interesting thing. First interesting thing is there was a photograph. Had the photograph been admitted into evidence, I know what it would have shown because I know what Micah Powell was doing, I know what Marshall was doing, and I know what I was doing. I was watching. That guy over there took a picture of these two guys at the bar, and Micah was like this. He's about to say to the guy, can I see an ID? Too late. Guy slammed down the beer and took off once he had his picture taken. Well, you see, according to Steve Marr, all they had on their person was a $20 bill or the change that had been made through their purchases. No cell phone. No driver's license, no ID, no wallet, no keys, no money, no knife, no weapons, no means of communications, not so much as a toothpick, no cigarette lighter, no pack of cigarettes, no cigar cutter, nothing. Maybe there's a reason that the second young officer wasn't there. Speculating now, hearsay, speculation. Maybe he said, no, I'm not going to go in there and take an oath and lie. I'm sorry. Gee. So the honest guy didn't show up. Just to make matters really interesting, there were so many people caught in this sting that there had to be 3 hearings scheduled. And they heard a third, and a third. This is from one night. One night. Wow. It took 6 to 8 weeks for the report of the sting to be served on the alleged offenders. 2 uniformed police officers in the middle of an afternoon came into the black spot 6 weeks or so after the sting, and they gave Micah the official notification with a hearing date and the complaint, the charge, da-da-da-da-da. Now let's see. Let's take a logical look at this. The sting was in the last week of July. That's in the summer on the Cape. The notifications didn't make it out until September. Most of the bartenders, I'm not sure about liquor store clerks because there were 3 or 4 liquor stores involved. Most of the bartenders who were allegedly involved in failing to ask for an ID, that's a specific charge, failing to ask for an ID and as a result serving a minor, were gone. They were seasonal. Micah Power was one of the only people who's actually not only the guy who was directly involved in the sting, but also the license holder. Isn't that cute? So for most of these here, nobody has a problem with this. What am I missing? Nobody has a problem with the fact that the people who allegedly committed the offense, most of them were unavailable to answer the charges, to testify, to say, whoa, 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 wait a minute. The guy grabbed a beer off, I never served him anything. How do we know that's possible? Well, we know it's possible because it happened in at least one case, namely at the Black Spot. Even Marty Hoxie mentioned the fact that the licensing board had heard about this, and he said people around are not happy, and we've heard about it. No kidding. No kidding. Sloppy. Sloppy work. Very sloppy work. Is that an indictment of the whole Barnstable Police Department? No. Those people have more crap on their hands right now. Burning teenage body in a hole. One of the people who participated in the killing is his younger half-brother, who then calls the victim's uncle, father, the one kid's father, who's in jail, calls him in jail and says, oh, we just killed, what do we do? Well, you get rid of the body, you burn it beyond recognition. This is what they have to put up with in Barnstable. I don't know how they do it. But I can tell you how stings are done in Yarmouth. That's that nice, equally busy, criminal-infested, unfortunately, town, the well-run town, just this side of Barnstable. The Barnstable police, and the Yarmouth police, this came from the ranks. The troops actually figured this out. The chief said, what are we going to do? We need to have a liquor policing policy. And our job is not to shut businesses down. Our job is not to be punitive. Our job is not to look for ways to fine people or suspend their licenses. Our job is to make sure they do what they do correctly. So, and many people have spoken to me about this without being asked and said, here's how we do it. Civilians, cops, a lot of people. The Yarmouth police they don't all of a sudden show up at a sting. And they don't kind of snoop around. They walk into a place, they say, hi, how are you? Sergeant so-and-so, Lieutenant Umpty-Ump. Yeah, I'm the watch commander tonight. And we're just, every weekend, we line up a list of a few establishments and we come by and visit. How are things going? You have any problems that we can help you with? And they look around and they say, well, you appear to be doing everything right. Or, I noticed your bartender didn't ask that person for an ID. He or she probably is of age, but if somebody looks younger than, they say 40, you really should ask for an ID. That way everybody's covered. We don't want to see you get hurt. We really don't. Then when something serious happens, and as a result of these routine visits, and they go on all year, every year, they're regular, they're reliable. The cops get to know the people who run the joints. They get to know each other. They get along. And as the current chief, Mike Almonte, and as the past chief, Peter Carnes, and as a lot of the officers and command have expressed, at least in conversations with me, they say, we're not their enemy. We don't want to be seen as hard guys. We want to be part of a solution, not part of a problem. We want to help them. Maybe they're doing something they shouldn't, and they don't even know it. They forgot about it. Gee, there's an attitude. Not the Stephen Marr attitude of, well, we got another one. I wonder if he cuts notches in his gun. This is stupid. So you get this enormous delay between the sting itself and the notification. Witnesses are gone. Then you get a summer officer who's not available for the round 2 of the hearing, who's a critical part of it. Wonder why. You get a summer officer who just plain lied. Just plain, unless he completely forgot what happened and just assumed that, well, I did it right, but then we still have the problem of the missing $6.75, don't we? And then you have Officer Marr. What kind of example is he setting for these 2 young men who want to go into law enforcement? What kind of image is he putting forth for a really sound, solid, conscientious department? What are the license holders supposed to think of this character? These are important issues. Alcoholic beverages are rampaging through our ranks, doing alarming damage. And it is very important that everybody knows the rules and everybody follows the rules. One of the rules is, when you take an oath to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you, you better. Without that fundamental mode of conduct, we're all screwed. We're in real trouble. And you know the real problem? Mike is going to be suspended for 1 day. Maybe he's going to appeal to the state. We'll see what happens. The real problem is, when perjury happens, it opens the door to have the whole case tossed out. Even when they actually did get the bad guy, and they actually do have solid charges. Why lie? Why not do it right? So, Officer Marr, you know what happened, and I know what happened, and a few other people know what happened. You're a disgrace. You should apologize, you should make it right, and you should straighten out. Because personally, I don't know that you're a bad person. And the department needs experienced officers. They don't need officers who do this. They really don't. They shouldn't have to put up with it. The license holders in the town of Barnstable shouldn't have to put up with it. None of us should. And just so we're clear, I was there. We both know what happened. And what happened isn't what you said happened. All for now. Gadfly.